Welcome to the Londoners channel, where we are talking about the US presidential election. I'm Chloe Chenery.
And I'm Libby Jennings, and we will take you through all the key topics from this US election with a Londoners twist.
So what's actually happened?
Well, Donald Trump has officially secured a second term, surpassing the 270 electoral college votes needed for victory. Key swing states include Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. They all went red, handing Trump a decisive win against Democratic contender Kamala Harris.
Trump delivered his victory speech from Mar-a-Lago, vowing to champion a strong, safe, and prosperous America for every citizen. He expressed gratitude for what he called an unprecedented mandate and referenced an alleged assassination attempt at a recent rally, attributing his survival to divine intervention.
The Republicans have now taken control of the Senate and look to control both chambers of Congress, alongside their established majority on the Supreme Court. A red wave that promises sweeping influence over the country's legislative and judicial direction. Stay with us as we bring you all the updates throughout this video. Also make sure to check out the Londoners online sites for more in-depth analysis.
Firstly, we'll hear from Daniel Mulhern and Ollie Loveland-Jones, who will share their take on what has happened.
Hello, I'm Ollie Loveland-Jones.
And I'm Daniel Mulhern.
And today we are going to be discussing and analysing the reaction to Trump's victory within British politics, as well as what a Trump White House could look like, looking over some of the policy suggestions of Project 2025, something Trump has distanced himself from during his campaign, but nonetheless it raises questions about and insight into what his policies could be. Thank you for joining us. So, how has the reaction been within British politics following Trump's decisive victory?
So the reaction has been very much mixed among the different parties. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has congratulated Donald Trump following his victory in the US election. Trump previously claimed that Labour interfered with the US election. However, Starmer has insisted that he can have a good relationship with Donald Trump. John Swinney, Scotland's First Minister, has also congratulated Trump on his second term. He was previously criticised by Trump International Scotland for backing Kamala Harris. Lib Dems leader Ed Davey slammed Trump after the election in a series of posts on X. He said, "The world's largest economy and most powerful military will be led by a dangerous, destructive demagogue."
Have any other parties criticised Trump?
Well, the Plaid Cymru leader, Reen Apioworth, agreed with the Lib Dems, adding, "Events in the USA represent a backward step for women's rights, global stability, and the struggle against increasingly regressive forces in our politics." Reform leader Nigel Farage said Trump is a genuine friend of the United Kingdom. He said, "This is a huge opportunity to be grasped by our country." New Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has also congratulated Trump. Just Stop Oil campaigners have put orange paint on a US embassy wall in London during an anti-Trump protest. They said, regardless of who sits in the White House, corporations and billionaires will ensure that the interests of the fossil fuel industry will continue to be prioritised over the well-being of ordinary people. Carla Denyer, the co-leader of the Green Party, called Trump a bigot, a bully, and a liar, as well as a misogynist and a fascist. She said that the world must now live with the consequences of his election, including those in Gaza and Ukraine.
Has there been a comment from the Mayor of London over Trump's election?
Well, Sadiq Khan has expressed his concern over the anxiety of Londoners following the US election, over the future of women's rights, which Libby will cover later, the conflict in Gaza and Ukraine, and also the climate crisis. So, a lot of discussion has emerged during the campaign about Project 2025. How consequential will the suggestions be now that Trump has won?
So Project 2025 is a series of policies being suggested by the Heritage Foundation, which is an ultra-conservative think tank. It was a big talking point during the elections. Trump's political opponents, particularly Kamala Harris, was very critical of his perceived links to it. Indeed, many of its authors and associates were on Trump's team during his first term and many during his campaign, for his second campaign. So it's essentially ultra-conservative policies including mass abortion bans, mass deportations, and warrantless surveillance. Essentially, there's some fears that it could take America down a dark path.
So, what does the project mean for the Israel-Palestine conflict?
So it endorses continued support for Israel, despite a growing pushback by numerous reputable human rights organisations. Oxfam, for example, has condemned their use of starvation as a weapon of war, and they've been accused by many reputable organisations of committing acts of genocide. Their exact quote is to sustain support for Israel, even as America empowers Gulf partners to take responsibility for their own coastal air and missile defences both individually and working collectively.
So, how does the Democrats' position differ to that of the Republicans?
So the Democrats' position isn't much different to that. Kamala Harris's support for continued arms to Israel and disillusionment on Biden's continued support, getting in the nickname Genocide Joe, undoubtedly cost them some votes. It's unclear how big of an impact it had, but it definitely did have an impact in their loss of this election. Speaking also of foreign policy, there are concerns about the impact it will have on Ukraine, and some have criticised Trump for supporting a deal which could work in Russia's favour over Ukraine's.
Thanks, Holly. Unfortunately, that's all we have for this segment. Now, Chloe and Libby are going to discuss the effects the election will have on women's rights and the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you.
The issue of LGBTQ rights has come a long way over the past few decades, but recent years have shown that progress is far from guaranteed. Trump's first term demonstrated a mixed approach to these rights.
How so?
While he initially indicated a willingness to support communities, several policy reversals left advocates concerned. Key changes include the rollback of protections for transgender people, including banning transgender individuals from serving openly in the military, and redefining gender strictly by biological sex in certain contexts.
And what happened in his first term?
In his first term, Trump's administration introduced several changes that limited protections for these individuals in health and employment, impacting access to services and workplace equality. In 2020, Trump's Department of Health and Human Services reversed an Obama-era rule that prohibited discrimination based on gender identity in healthcare under the Affordable Care Act. This change effectively allowed healthcare providers and insurers more latitude to deny coverage for services to transgender patients and refuse transition-related healthcare. Under his second term, these changes could intensify.
And how about the judiciary and legal implications?
So, during his first term, Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices who contributed to a 6-3 Conservative majority on the court. Additionally, Trump appointed over 200 federal judges, many of whom hold conservative views that may impact rulings related to these rights. With courts often deciding key cases related to civil rights, Trump's appointments could shape the legal landscape on LGBTQ issues for decades, influencing everything from marriage equality to protections for transgender individuals. As the judiciary becomes more conservative, the rights and protections of LGBTQ Americans may increasingly depend on legal interpretations that favour religious freedom and states' rights over federal non-discrimination mandates.
And how about education?
LGBTQ inclusivity in schools could face significant limitations. Trump's focus on parents' rights could lead to restrictions on LGBTQ inclusive curriculum and resources, affecting student clubs, mental health support, and transgender students' access to facilities and sports. By narrowing federal protections, schools may no longer feel compelled to support gender identity accommodations, creating a more restrictive environment for LGBTQ students. For many, this could mean losing essential safe spaces and supportive resources, impacting their overall school experience and well-being. What struck your eye?
Yeah, so it's undeniable that his return to office is stirring significant debate, particularly on issues of reproductive rights. Trump appointed Supreme Court justices overturning Roe v. Wade in 2022, placing the future of abortion access in state hands. In a social media post this April, states stated that abortion laws will be decided by the states through vote or legislation, while also voting support for exceptions in cases of rape, incest, or life-threatening pregnancies. Trump's agenda included limiting birth control, medication, and potentially enforcing a nationwide abortion ban. Trump's controversial record on women's rights continues, including a jury finding last year that he had sexually abused E. Jean Carroll in 1990s and his infamous 2016 remark about groping women, which has added to global concerns. He recently remarked he would protect women whether they like it or not, prompting criticism worldwide.
How did these controversies go down in the polls?
Yes, so basically, the exit polls showed a stark gender divide among American voters, with women favouring Kamala Harris by a 10-point margin, while men similarly favoured Trump. Yet this support wasn't enough to secure Harris's victory.
And what has the response been from Londoners on this?
So, London Mayor Sadiq Khan reassured residents, saying, "We will always be pro-women, pro-diversity, pro-climate and pro-human rights." While former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn called Trump's election a dark day for reproductive healthcare, the rights of refugees and the future of our planet. While at London's The Lexington, around 500 people gathered to watch the results unfold. Early enthusiasm for Kamala Harris turned somber as Trump's path to victory solidified. Lily Stone, an American student in London, shared, "I just feel for every woman everywhere in the world, regardless of their politics." On the other hand, some Trump supporters there, such as Robert Zahali from Shepherd's Bush, said, "I think that Trump, as he's got older, has toned down his rhetoric and has been able to appeal to a variety of different demographics, age groups, and races. I think a lot of people are upset with the wars, natural disasters, and the economy, and Trump answers those questions." So overall, it has been a mixed bag of emotion for reproductive rights, and only time will really tell how this will pan out.
And that brings us to the end of the Londoners special on the 2024 US presidential election. It's been an intense, historic 24 hours as Donald Trump secures his second term, with significant implications not only for the United States, but people all around the world, including here in London.
We've covered a lot today, from Trump's sweeping red wave victory and the potential changes in LGBTQ+ rights and reproductive rights, Project 25, and how Londoners and key figures here are reacting. These election outcomes will likely shape major policy discussions, and the impact will be felt for many years to come.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll continue to report on these developments. Stay connected on the Londoners online platforms for in-depth articles, opinions and live updates.
And whether you're celebrating or reflecting on what's next, today has shown how closely our US politics affects London.
From the Londoners, I'm Chloe Chenery.
And I'm Libby Jennings. Thanks for watching, and let us know any of your thoughts in the comments below.